Sigma Asia presents a conversation with Harmen Brenninkmeijer.
Well, I've kind of a unique situation because of the fact that I've been in the industry for 35 years. Started in the land-based side, developed a lot of product in the land-based side, represented the product initially, and then based on my representation, started to develop more and more, different products. So initially, what happened in the industry is that you come in, you develop a product, you think the customer likes it, but then the customer says, I want that changed, that changed, that changed. So what you then do with those changes is to basically come out with a new product. Now, do you leave that in the same company? Do you bring that into a new company? That might vary. Also, if you're going to bring that product out, does your customer that then help pay for that product get a kickback or somehow is involved in further development of it? Or is it something that, becomes part of the company and as a result, the company develops it further, makes it available to other companies? In generally, I believe that more and more people in the gaming industry are trying to, we all try to obviously spend the least and get the maximum, basically meaning that we want to develop a product, we want to make sure that we can go live with that product, quickly, and then we'll make the adjustments accordingly. That works many times and many times not. It really depends upon the areas. Asia is a good example where you can come in with a very standardized product initially. That's what a lot of the, let's say, local developers did. The Chinese developers, Taiwanese developers, they basically came in with a product that they developed for a particular market and then made it available to other markets. In the end, it didn't work. And it doesn't necessarily work because of the fact that the differences are too big. Especially if you take a Taiwanese product and then you look at the Philippines, a lot of adjustments need to be made. One of the reasons why particular operators in the Philippines are now suddenly booming because they developed it specifically to this market because they understood the market. Gaming is becoming far more local, so it is not as global as people think. However, gaming itself as an action, as let's say an activity, as entertainment, is quite international. And it's quite interesting to trying to find ways to bring out a product, but you never know which product suddenly blows up. In other words, becomes highly successful. Some products suddenly take off. Aviator, great example of a product that basically nobody expected that to take off, but it doesn't take off in every market. It takes off in certain markets. So what needs to happen within the gaming industry is basically we need to become far better at gathering information of specific markets and then determine as to what works and what doesn't work. Right now, it's often still a bit of a test, trial and error. I think the larger land-based companies, definitely, they understand exactly what they do, but they have a firmer hold on the market because it's far more difficult for all these other companies to become regulated in as many different markets. So they can spend the money on research and development. They can also ask for the money because the land-based sector is just there is more, let's say the expenditures in generally on the assets are higher and therefore the margins are more guaranteed. In iGaming, it is very difficult because the affiliates take so much money and other services take a lot of money. If you go to 100% GGR and then suddenly the affiliate gets 40%, then you're stuck with 60%. Then you have to pay your taxes. Then you have to pay all of, your infrastructure, your people, etc. And then you have to, pay for the product. And the product in generally is a percentage of turnover. It's not that you buy the product and basically say, okay, it's a one-time cost, write it off and it's mine now. That is not the case in iGaming. So iGaming works with, in generally, quite small margins as well. But they're not guaranteed as much unless you're of a certain size, unless you're a certain operator. So it makes it very difficult for larger operators. They have very good research and development budgets for, let's say, developing markets. And generally, they don't want to develop the product unless it's their own product. If you take Bet365, they have their own platform. Of course, they're going to put the money behind it. They're going to make sure that their platform is absolutely number one. For a lot of other operators, that's not a very likely or realistic scenario. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking at what are the better products that I can take, what is the cost, and let the cost be as little as possible so that I have enough money for the marketing. As a result, their product is not always the best, but they don't have much of a choice because they have to spend it on marketing, making sure that they get the players. So it becomes a little bit of a vicious circle with regards to, where do you put the money? Now, if we go to the B2B operators, the B2B, we represent about 50 plus companies around the world. And it is very difficult for a B2B developer, a smaller company, to basically say, they will reinvest. They're fantastic at that. So in other words, a lot of innovative product is amazing. Once they gather, and pick up more and more business, and they have more free cash flow, then they will put it back into the research and development. So initially, the research and development budget, if you would take it as a percentage, is extremely high. That doesn't lower that quickly. It takes many years before that lowers. Now, what's interesting is, especially with game studios have the ability, they continuously do research and development, right? They need to build new games all the time. So an average new studio, you say, builds a game, one game a month, 12 games a year. And for that, they employ, let's say, on average, approximately 20 people. So some studios can do it faster because they reskin, they do other things, versus studios that basically want to come out with original games. It's continuous research and development money. But once a game takes off, then suddenly the cash flow is very free. And then it depends on the studio if they want to keep on reinvesting in a larger studio, or they're going to, remain with a smaller studio and just take the cash out of the companies. You can't do it without it anymore. The thing that's very important is you take a platform. And when you take a platform, you have to understand, in which market am I going? Am I going to go, if I, for example, target the Brazilian market, and I know that I have potentially, tens of millions of customers, that would be a very different deal than when I go into Africa. And even if I go into Nigeria, where I also potentially could have a lot of customers, the whole betting environment, and let's say the characteristics of the player, are so different that you really have to understand what the differences are and how they play. In Brazil, they play to extinction. In Nigeria, it is, part of the pastime, and it's part of, let's say, what they would like to keep on playing with. So, they're going to keep on basically coming back. So it's a very different player, and that demands a different type of platform. Most platforms will tell you we do it all, but that's just not the case. Not everybody does the right job in every jurisdiction. They have to make the adjustments. Well, I think you can already see that. I just like to take the examples of the larger markets in the world, where, for example, the United States, where the top three take 70% market share. Now, then you have suddenly tens of others that basically have to share and divvy up the 30%. Then it becomes rather difficult to basically get enough market share. So marketing is number one, always number one. But the marketing has to come with a product that you can market uniquely. What can you do different than what everybody else does? If you go to a land-based casino, pretty much the same equipment. So where a land-based casino differs is through the asset, the building itself, let's say the design of the building, how you feel within the building. Am I targeting the lower, side of, let's say, the gambling industry? If you take, for example, the local Las Vegas downtown versus the strip, you take the strip, then, are you targeting some, the better players like the Wynn or the Bellagio, or are you targeting the average player? And then you go to, I'd say, more the Harrah's or Planet Hollywood, or other properties that you have. There you can see the difference, but within the product is pretty much the same. Now, how much I bet, my minimum bets, my maximum bets, etc., that's where it all changes, right? The configuration on the floor, the type of, offering that I have, obviously the loyalty programs. If I play, with higher, minimums and maximums, then obviously I can gather more points. I gather more points, I can get more back, with regards to the services that are being offered, or, let's say the loyalty that's being extended to me by the different operators. So all of that plays within, but it's pretty much the same product, right? The product isn't that different. It's different, but it's not that different. iGaming has even a worse problem, where the product is really often very much the same, because you only see what you see on your screen. That's it. You have no peripheral vision on anything else. So therefore, you have to continuously follow the player. And I think that's where AI will start to come in and completely change the game. Right now, you can say, okay, like Netflix, what are the type of games that I like to play? And as a result, those are the ones that are being suggested to me. If there are new games on the platform that automatically pop up because I'm, for example, a high volatility game player, fine, great. But that's not where it's going to stop. It's going to go far deeper into How many bets am I placing? Is the AI recognizing my player behavior? Is it then therefore making suggestions like, okay, I need to slow down, I need to speed up, I need to increase, I need to decrease. If I need to increase, then for example, they will make bonuses available to me because they want me to basically stay longer, but they have to offer something every time. The whole way of, getting the player to then interact with, let's say, the platform is going to change. That's going to be done by AI. That's not going to be done by a person sitting on the other side, trying to recognize how I play, and as a result, providing me with certain, let's say, features or enticements to, keep on going. So I think all of that will make that it becomes really important for an operator to understand where the market is moving to. If I'm bigger, if I make more money, I can invest more. I can invest more, I can take better features. I can be more innovative. I can be more innovative, I can, as a result, increase my market share. If you don't have that, you're going to lose. And effectively, you're not going to be the winner. And a lot of gaming companies are by far not as profitable as people think. I love regulated markets, but light regulated, proper regulated markets. I like the Philippines in particular because there is a lot of variety in gaming. So they don't only just have, let's say, the integrated resorts right from the top to, let's say, iGaming via the Pigos with small e-game locations in order to do electronic gambling like arcades, as we were talking about in Europe. They have everything. They have the lotteries, they have bingos, they have the live game studios that are being offered within the electronic gaming environments. They have the different products that can be offered online. There is a variety of product online that can be offered different ways, from instant gaming to, let's say, a full iGaming platform to a sports betting platform or a combination thereof. That to me is where it should move. I was involved in writing the business plan and the business case for Colombia in 2013, 2014. I was working with Coljuegos, the regulator, in order to basically see where can we move gaming to, or how gaming was of a certain size. At that time, the government was making about 125 million. And the government wanted to get more money out of it, but it didn't want to destroy what it had. It didn't want to just come up with regulations in order then to say, okay, I'm going to tax it higher because then I get more money. That is not how it works. So what we did is we created a whole roadmap with different new introductions, with different fees, with different taxations, with different levels. And that as a result, Colombia now came out as one of the better regulated ones in Latin America with more variety, and they kept intact what they had. It's not perfect. None of the countries are perfect. I don't think there is a perfect gaming market in the world. There's a perfect regulated market in the world. Nowhere. There's not one country. We can learn from one another. A lot of countries could learn from each other. But gaming regulation, I was very active in Russia for many years until Putin banned gaming in 2009. And in the late 90s, it was laissez-faire. It was everybody for themselves, etc. Very high taxation, nobody paid tax because the taxation was too high, like in many European countries where they do have to pay tax, but then they find other ways around it. That's not the right model. Bring it to a model that people can afford, that the business can exist, and that regulators understand what it takes. You can't overtax it and then have not enough money available for the marketing in order then for the operator to attract players. Most of the regulators have no idea how to run this business or understand enough about the business. And we as an industry do a really bad job in educating the outside world. We really do. If you go to an average player and you say, how much of a percentage does the slot machine pay back? They absolutely don't understand. Because they basically say, oh, the operator probably, keeps 80%. Well, that's very far from the truth, as we know. When you're an insider, you know that the operator at max keeps 5-6%. I think it's almost impossible to make happen because of the fact that even in the European Union, where theoretically everything is to be harmonized, gaming was left out of it. So gaming was left out of the original white paper of harmonization in the European Union in the beginning of the 90s. We fought for it at that time to basically say put gaming underneath it, because we figured that it would do the industry a lot of good in order to at least know that the rules are pretty similar. Hasn't worked in the European Union, and that's probably the most complex largest venture ever undertaking for trying to harmonize laws between countries. They couldn't even succeed. Nobody can. Well, it depends where we talk about in Africa. I mean, if you talk about the various agreements that are between African countries, like, for example, Western Africa, or sorry, Eastern Africa, because Western Africa, forget it, they're really not going to get there. But Eastern Africa might, bring a bit of a level, of harmonization in there. But I don't see Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania that are very close together to basically harmonize it. And if they cannot harmonize, nobody else can within that environment. So I honestly, I would love to see it. I don't see it.